Okay, today we're going to look at an introduction to interval notation. So what you should be saying is the three things I will be able to do when Ms. Head is done teaching me this lesson is I will be able to use inequality and interval notation to graph inequalities. I will also be able to use graphs of inequalities to write inequalities and interval notation. And I will also be able to determine the domain and range from a graph. So let's get started. Okay, so when we're looking at interval notation, I know that because I have an also equal to sign, that's going to be bubbled in. So it's going to be colored in. Here I don't have an equal to sign, so that's going to be open. So when I go over here and I get ready on my graph to graph this, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out where 0 is. And then based on 0, I'm going to decide where my -3 is and my 5 is. So because I have my 3 that it does include, I'm going to bubble 3 in. It doesn't include 5, so that's going to stay open. And then I'm going to have a line in the middle that are connected. So now we're going to talk about what does that look like when I write it in interval notation. Because I know that when I write it in interval notation, that I have to take into account that I have a dot here and that I have an open here. So if I know exactly where it stops, for instance, I know this exactly stops at -3, so I know I'm going to have a bracket. And then I'm going to have my -3 and I'm going to have my 5. It is less than 5, but I don't have an exact spot, so I know that's going to be a parenthesis. So as I get ready to work my next one, I know that I'm going to, once again, denote where my 0 is, and then based on my 0, denote where my 2 is. Because x is greater than 2, I don't know exactly where it is, so it's open. And then I know I'm going to have an arrow going to the right. So when we think about what does that mean in terms of the interval notation, I don't know where it stops as far as 2 is concerned, so I know that where my 2 is, I'm going to have a parenthesis. And then I know it's going to go off into positive infinity, but I don't know where infinity stops, so again, I'm going to have a parenthesis. So what about this next one here? So because I have x is less than or equal to -4, I know I'm going to have something that's colored in. Because I have x is greater than 2, I know that I'm going to have something that's open. So sometimes it's best to just denote what you're going to have to make sure you do it right. So now I know I'm going to go to my graph and I'm going to denote where my 0 is. And based on that, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. I know this is my -4, which I know is colored in. And then I have 2, 1, 2, which is open. Well, if I look at these signs here, I know that it's going to be less than -4, so I know less than -4 is going to be in this direction. And this one is greater than 2, so I know this is going to be in this direction. So now I just need to figure out what my interval notation is. So I want you to take a minute and see if you can figure out your interval notation. If you need an extra minute, you can pause the video here. So I know that it's going to go to -infinity. I don't know where it's going to stop, so that's going to be a parenthesis. But I do know that at -4 it's going to stop, so I know I'm going to have a bracket here. Okay, I'm going to rewrite this because I'm going to make sure I need room to write everything. So just give me 1 second here. Okay, so I know, once again, like I said, I'm going to have -infinity to 4, and I know it stops at 4, so I'm going to have a bracket. This OR is going to be represented by this symbol. This is your OR symbol, and just keep in mind, if you're wondering, this would be the AND symbol. So I'm going to have -infinity to 4, and I also know that what? That's correct. I'm going to have 2, and I don't know where 2 is because it doesn't have a line with it, 2 all the way to positive infinity, and I don't know where that's going to stop, so that's going to be a parenthesis as well. Good job. So now we're going to go to the next slide. And this is just going through telling you the same thing. So just, there it is. I'm going to keep going. If you need help with that, you can always go back. So let's go back here now. So now I want to look at the domain and range of this function here. So my domain and range